tell me about what is actually happening with this subtle stimulation.
A lot of things are happening, but in general, we are pushing the electricity to vagus nerve, and you need to understand that those fibers which are responsible for relaxation, usually we have a lot of, let's say, function. Your, let's say, knowledge learning is also increased when you are relaxed. So we are, let's say, increasing good patterns in the brain. We're increasing a little bit of blood flow in the brain, and from that, additional signals are going to the body. It sends the signal, tries to lower the heart rate, it tries to lower the breathing rate. Alkaline is treated in the spleen, so it reduces inflammation. Your body is trying to repair itself.
Good morning. I've been so looking forward to this conversation with you. You can see, for people who are going to be watching, I've got my Pulsetto device on, and I was so excited to learn about your brand, to start following you, to start looking up all the information. So welcome to Rooted in Wellness. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll dive into absolutely everything around your story. So for everyone tuning in, Povilas is the CEO and co-founder of a brand called Pulsetto, which I was super excited to talk about because I'll share more about my journey with you. But I think that tuning into my vagal tone, just the health of my body and the connection through that was a big part of my healing journey. So before we dive in, just so you know, this podcast is all about just rooting in our wellness, how we can merge ancient wisdom with our modern world, how we can merge ancient wisdom with modern day science. So to just kick things off, I'd love to know, what are things that help you feel really rooted in your health or grounded in your health?
It's a very good question. I don't know, just trying to aesthetically feel how I'm feeling. Usually, if I'm out of myself, I usually try to give myself a training session, which basically restarts my, let's say, parasympathetic nervous system. So in general, nothing fancy. I try to follow 80-20 rule due to that, having business you should not have a lot of time to allocate for, wellness. So in general, I'm trying to find the best things which can give the most, let's say, impact.
Yeah, I love asking this question, mostly for our listeners so that they can understand that every single person who sits in that seat says something that has to do with getting them into their bodies so that they can feel just grounded again and able to go out and tackle all the things that we have going on in our busy life. So with your healing journey, or with your journey, and obviously with the foundation of building this company, do you actually know when things cause you to feel uprooted? So on the opposite spectrum, as you know, we live in this world of biohacking, and wellness seems very challenging, and sometimes we have a big checklist of all these things that we have to do. Do you notice when you feel uprooted?
Yeah, I notice it, and I try to measure myself. I try to allocate some time when I'm checking my biomarkers. Usually I try to cross-check, how am I feeling, what the data shows, and trying to understand if I'm overworked or have some tension. So I try to create a system on which I, let's say, try to evolve during, 7 years. And when I started to have additional tracking devices, let's say, noticing some patterns. But in general, yeah, I know myself quite well, and usually I know when I will get an injury, when I will be down. So I know that, but still, this is like a normal thing to even get injured or get down, and then this is a, let's say, work in progress constantly.
Yeah, it's especially as we're aging, right? Life doesn't seem to be getting easier, and our world seems to be getting a lot more fast paced. So it's part of that excitement to dive into this, because I think that when we look at the inspiration, and you'll obviously share more about this, but for centuries, I feel like ancient traditions have really known about these modalities to really calm the mind, to heal the body, to come back into center. But today, science, or the biomarkers that you're checking for example, it shows us really how much of that magic from those things has to do with our vagus nerve. It's almost like turning a switch on to our body to pull us into feeling calm. So For listeners who are not seeing this device around my neck, this is called a Pulsetto vagus nerve stimulator to literally biohack your parasympathetic nervous system. And as somebody who I had a big healing journey with ancient wisdom, this is the kind of tech that I really get behind because it falls in line with the wisdom that we've known for so long. So let's start off with the basics. For people who are listening, vagal tone and understanding the vagus nerve is coming a little bit more online. But can you describe what exactly is the vagus nerve? Where is it? And what role does it play in regulating our health?
So vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve. So the nerve which comes out from your, let's say, brain to, and then goes to all your internal organs. So gut, spleen, kidneys, lungs, heart, etc. So vagus nerve, it has also Latin name wandering nerve, which basically shows that it wanders throughout the body. So via that vagus nerve, all the communication is happening between your brain and all your organs. And if you are down, if something is wrong with your, let's say, I don't know, you have a lot of stress, your heartbeat is elevated. So that signal goes through vagus nerve to your brain, and your brain tries to adapt your body and try to make a decision what is needed to do. Is it illness? Is it stress? Or is it other things? So, vagus nerve is like a wire of or a highway of information. And, there's a lot of communication. And with Pulsetto, we are trying to tap into that communication and provide some, let's say, or activate fibers which are responsible to push your body from fight to flight to rest and digest state. So it's a quite, let's say, complex and in the same way quite easy, let's say, mechanism of action, how it works.
Yeah, it's fascinating because what I want to point out to everyone is on the Pulsetto website too, I love that you make a lot of this data and the research really accessible. And I think when people think about, the cranial nerve that you mentioned touching all of our major organs, like you said, that it really is maybe just about digestion or helping us relax. But it's really cool to see that you have the studies to show how it impacts your recovery, your mood, lowering inflammation to the body, which is such a big buzzword these days, right? But also our heart rate variability, which is also coming online, and how that allows us to go out into the world feeling a little bit more peace and calm. And your team sent over some notes, and they call the vagus nerve the body's built-in reset switch, which when you understand it through that lens, it's like, oh my gosh, I just have to do that. And what is so refreshing about this, where I get excited, because it's not something that's hardcore. It's not a pill that you have to take. It's not something that you have to go and spend a lot of time. It literally is just a few minutes a day through this activation. And this activation through ancient times, have you ever been to an ashram? Do you know what an ashram is?
No.
Ashram?
I never been.
So you'll have to come with me one day. It's a spiritual center where you go and you practice lots of yoga, and you live outside in nature, and you practice chanting every single day and humming and all of these modalities, breath work as well, which is vagal activation, right? So instead of going away, this is a way that kind of anchors you in that exact same feeling. So I guess the next question is, when we think about this built-in reset switch, why is the vagal nerve often called the reset button, or why do you call it the healing highway? What does it actually mean? How are we supposed to feel when we know that we've turned on this vagal tone activation versus not?
So, how you should feel, it's a little bit different. Maybe a question due to that, people feel different ways, but, one thing that, let's say a majority of people have witnessed, basically, when you have those butterflies in the stomach, this is basically overactivated vagus nerve. When you're in love, when you have some, major, let's say, event or etc. So this is overactivating vagus nerve. So this is coming through vagus nerve. But in general, as you mentioned, there are natural ways how to activate vagus nerve. You can hum, you can sing, you can do breath work, you can do contrast baths, cold, hot shower. Everything is working perfectly, in my opinion. And if you can maintain this kind of things, I would say keep that kind of, let's say, habits. But majority of people cannot maintain them. And this is the biggest issue to, let's say, the building habits. And when we created this device, our logic was, okay, the device which does not have a lot of, let's say, strain on your mental capacity. When you put the device, you can, let's say, stimulate the vagus nerve, but you do not need to allocate additional time, like doing meditation or breath work. It works perfectly, but we need 10, 15, 20 or 40 minutes to do this kind of activities and reach those states, on which you can say that, oh, okay, I'm calm, I am, let's say, close to my inner self, and etc. So our mission was basically to create a device which helps you to ground yourself quite easily and without any, let's say, education. You do not need to go to a retreat to learn how to properly meditate or how to properly chant. But it's not a magic bullet. It's just a tool in a toolbox. And usually when I say, okay, if I ask any person on the street how you should live your life, they 99% would know how to live the life so that they would be healthy. They need to sleep well, have less stress, exercise, eat healthy, and have a community. But how many people can maintain this kind of lifestyle is just a fraction of a percent, in my opinion. So it's a let's say we all know how to live, but nobody's living that life.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because this isn't something that's unique to one part of the world. You're in a different part of the world than I am. I work with clients all over the world, and the feedback is the same. And I think that a lot of people, they don't really associate the symptoms that they're suffering with vagus nerve dysfunction. And what I was excited to share with you, so I've had a handful of clients who've been using the device for about a month now. 2 of them specifically have irritable bowel syndrome, and both women describe saying that, you know what, at first they didn't necessarily feel anything happening. It wasn't like the magic bullet, like you said, which I'm so happy you said that this isn't a magic bullet. But when you use technology like this, and it causes you to take a few breaths, or at least come back into that memory of, oh, I'm supposed to breathe, I'm supposed to relax. Oh yeah, I'm doing this because I want to feel a certain way. That's technology that's really working for you, right? And can you imagine the impact? And maybe this is something that's on the radar for your company, but if you go into the corporate world, the impact of using tech like this for people who are at the office every day, in front of screens every day, inside every single day. Maybe corporations aren't yet ready to build meditation rooms or breathwork rooms or cold plunge rooms and all of those things, but tech like this would just be so impactful. What do you think?
I think it's a very good idea, and but this is like a blessing in disguise. When you feel better, what you can do, work more, and this is like a closed loop system, in my opinion. Okay, I can give you a retreat, and you will do more. I can give you some tool which will allow you to relax faster. Let's say be productive, but still, the output is what is needed. So it's a very good tool, but I would say, of course, the employer needs to be aware of this kind of things, but employee also needs to be aware of his own, let's say, well-being. Due to that, business is providing, let's say, growth, let's say, every quarter, every year. So, that I would say the employee needs to be more aware. So I would say it's good to use the tool to make a better decisions, but in my opinion, this would be better to use it at home when you need to relax, when you need to, let's say, switch the states. Because if you're in office, it's still in a working environment. When you come home, you need to relax, you need to forget some things, and allocate the time for yourself. So I would say that this is the more applicable way, in my opinion. Of course, in our office, everyone uses it, but I would say, we're trying to even promote some other things, some challenges, so that on our team. But
You
Yeah,
got
but
it.
work is work. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in the future, but I agree with you. It has to be
Yeah.
something that needs to be merged with all the other modalities. So it's just a reminder for people to take that cue to come back into peace. So some of the other exciting studies, and maybe you want to share some of them that you've done with us. So the less obvious signs of vagus nerve dysfunction, beyond the usual things that we're talking about, the stress, the anxiety, the sleeplessness, what are some other symptoms that you say that people aren't linking together with vagus nerve dysfunction?
It's also close system. So in general, if you have a lot of stress, usually you cannot, let's say, digest very well. So this is also common problem. Some inflammation is happening in your body. Let's say if you have psoriasis, you can for sure check your, let's say, your rash. Uh, a lot of things, eye fatigue, low energy, and we have a lot of customers who said that okay, I stimulate my vagus nerve, and I have a boost of energy. So people are even not aware that they have not that stress or anxiety; they have a burnout. Basically, just stimulating vagus nerve pushes you into, let's say, like a equilibrium, which you need to be, and it feels like energy, a boost of energy, but it is basically just pushing you into your normal state. So a lot of things are, let's say, linked to the biggest nerve. But I would say, the biggest, let's say, solution what we can provide is stress, reduction of stress, anxiety, and improvement of sleep. And if you have, let's say, quite good establishment on those kind of groundwork, you can even go further. Let's say improve your digestion. Due to that, if you have any condition and it breaks your sleeping patterns, that would be, let's say, the most efficient way how to check if you're getting better or not. Because one part of the day you are in bed, and this is the core thing that we need to tackle, in my opinion. So sleeping, is maybe sometimes forgotten. Now it's getting a little bit more traction, but if you cannot go past your bed, this is also a problem. So, we have, let's say, Aura users who are using our device, and we see that we can push people to fall asleep fast, but just by 4 minutes. It doesn't seem like a lot, but 4 minutes every day, and let's say compounding affect those if you are using our device for 1 year. So it quite adds up.
Yeah,
So
definitely. That adds up to quite a lot, actually.
yeah, so there are some small mixes that you can do, but in general, we see that we can improve your REM and deep sleep, but we cannot prolong the duration in a bed. But we can reduce the awake time when you are moving in bed, etc. So there are some very good data on this. Let's say things. We say okay, 10 minutes before going to bed, simulate for 10 minutes. We have a dedicated program for this in that window, and people are getting very good results. And let's say the funniest thing is that if a person is moving less in bed, usually their, let's say, close algorithm is also getting better quality of sleep, that they are not awakened during the movement. So improving one person's sleep quality usually has some let's say additional effects.
Yeah. And I would say, like, improving your sleep quality, that's life changing. Like, it really is
Yeah.
life changing. That impacts absolutely everything. And I love that you brought that up too with your studies. It's this cumulative effect. I don't know what it's like in Lithuania, where you are, but here, when we look at this lens of longevity and aging really well, there's a lens of stress that comes with it. Like, people are worried or scared about getting sick, or scared about getting old, or scared about all these things. But I think that's important to point out. If you have something or a practice like this where you have where you have cumulative effects that support your health, that's going to help you age well. It's going to help to lower inflammation. And I would say that there was one common feature to everything that you mentioned. So the studies that you've done on sleep, anxiety, stress, digestion, or low energy, it's this stress to the body. It's stress that's happening within us, and we don't necessarily see it. We don't always feel it. We know that it's there. But can you describe then, just to really give people an understanding, like when we're thinking about vagus nerve dysfunction or maybe living chronically in that sympathetic state, what's physically happening to the vagus nerve? Like, is it overactive? Does it shut down? Is it communicating through different nerve endings to the body? What are the issues that are happening?
So basically, okay, vagus nerve is still working, but just a part of vagus nerve, which is usually linked to sympathetic nervous system. So in general, what is happening, basically, you have two states, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So one is fight or flight, which is, okay, constantly looking for some, let's say, causes which are causing you stress, due to that your body is naturally adapted to reduce the stress and get out of danger. But this day and age, your body does not differentiate between real stress and artificial stress. Due to that, stress can come from apps, I don't know, social media, Slack, messaging, emails, and etc. So if your body cannot differentiate, so usually it goes into that constant stress loop where your body says, okay, I'm stressed, I cannot find a way out. And we are always, let's say, on a higher heart rate, higher breathing rate, due to that your body is optimized to reduce the stress. But usually if you cannot pinpoint stress, so you're already in anxiety mode, due to that your body cannot allocate any source of point of stressors. In general, if you're in anxiety mode, so you're in way bad worse shape. And if you are maintaining this kind of, let's say, state, later you go to a burnout mode, due to that your body starts to break, and you become even more anxious. And so what we are doing, basically activating those fibers which are responsible to push your body into a relaxation state. So we push the electricity into them, and the brain recalculates, okay, my body is found, let's say, like oasis where I need to relax. It sends the signal, tries to lower the heart rate, it tries to lower the breathing rate, acetylcholine is secreted in the spleen, so let reduce this inflammation. Your body is trying to repair itself. So this is maybe a quick, let's say, thing that your vagus nerve is active, but some of its part it's not activating properly. So that is what is happening if you cannot differentiate the stress. And there's a lot of things these day and age that your perception scrolling via social media apps, and yeah, I sometimes say that you need to evaluate it like eating junk food. If you're consuming junk food, usually understand that you're doing damage to your body. But when you're consuming social media, you're doing the same, but just to your brain. Due to that, it's not giving you any relaxation state. So we, let's say, consider Pulsetto as a let's say, digital or mental toothbrush, just to clear your thoughts a little bit, to reduce the waste and try to relax. So this is, let's say, like our mission to give yourself, in just 4 minutes, to, let's say, like hygiene to your brain a little bit.
I love that so much. How much junk are you consuming that's impacting your vagus nerve signaling? That's a good one. Yeah, social media is the big one, right? And I don't think that people understand necessarily through social media, or if it's the news or any education platform that we're seeing these global events happen right before us, and it's really no different than us being like hyper present to them as well. So I think that that's so relevant to point out. So through the studies that you've done, you talked about obviously inflammation, you talked about stress, but what about injuries, right? I think you've done some studies with some athletes and stuff like that, but as a lot of people get older, we're prone to more injury. Are there any studies that you're linking in terms of healing the body faster and healing injuries simultaneously, or specifically with athletes? Do you have any examples?
So with athletes, we have some studies, but about the healing injuries, I would say just in general, lowering stress and reducing inflammation should help. And let's say like this, we consider our company a little bit like, I don't know if it's a total way to say that, like sexy science. Due to that, you can provide all the data, all clinical trials, yeah, okay, lower cortisol and cortisol levels, etc. And basically, no user can do this kind of test on their own. They need a lab, or they need to, let's say, take a sample of the hair or a saliva or a blood test. And usually, let's say, minority of people are doing like this, and usually they're already quite healthy due to that. They know what to check. So, our mission was basically to create a system where the user could measure themselves. So, we can connect wearable devices like our Ring, Whoop Strap, Apple Watch, and, 70 or 80% of all the, let's say, people who has a smartphone usually have some kind of wearable device which can track some basic metrics like heart rate, the resting heart rate, some sleep scores. And we said, okay, if you have your own trend line, and you can measure it. And if you just, let's say, try to use breathwork or Pulsetto, and we can improve it. This is, let's say, our promise to you that, it works. We're not providing some data on which you need to somehow understand, is it working or not? We're saying, okay, heart rate very good. We can increase.
Absolutely.
Resting heart rate, we can decrease.
Yeah.
So, this is, let's say, not overcomplicated. Due to that, we can provide some amazing graphs. But usually people do not like to read studies, and studies usually are for people who read science and understand science. Majority of people like to see the effects quite easily, and usually I say like this. Do you know how your cell phone works? No. Let's say, I don't know, some percentage no, but
Yeah.
you know what it needs to do. If it is, providing the function which you have needed, it works.
Mm.
So we are also trying to make it as easy as you would not need to understand, okay, what kind of signal we're pushing, but, just providing, let's say, like the closed loop system, whether you on your own data can make a decision. Is it working or not? Is it improving or not? So that the customer would not need to, dig deeper into science, which usually is overwhelming for some people.
Hearing that from you as a founder, I have to say, is so refreshing, because typically with somebody with a product, you want to blast these studies out there, but I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like meditation, right? Like anyone who's meditated or tried breath work or experienced something where they got their body into a relaxed state, they know how good it feels, but they still don't do it. And here we are, like centuries later, we're finally coming out with data on how these things, what they're doing physiologically, almost like to convince us a little bit more. So I totally hear what you're saying. As a practitioner, I love the science and stuff like that. And I think that the more people like you, like me, like other practitioners who can then go out into the world, like, oh, well, if you need the data, by the way, 70% of your users lowered cortisol in their bodies. Like that's the belief, or maybe the anchor that some people need to hear to come into practices like this, because I think what you're doing is so great. It's like the science that you're providing is finally catching up to the wisdom that so many healers have known all along, which I think is really, really great.
Yeah, in general, Vegas, as you mentioned, it's used to, let's say, some practices to create Vegas for centuries. Even, let's say, like a neuromodulation, it sounds quite new, but, even in ancient Greek and ancient Egypt, they were using electrical fields to, let's say, to shock feet and hand to reduce some lower back pain and etc. But, we took a lot of centuries to control electricity. So in general, it's nothing new. Maybe just a little bit, let's say, pinpointed to the exact place where it needs to be applied. But yeah, we can, let's say like this, from the studies, the best thing that you can do for your body is to exercise every week. Every, I don't know, 2-3 days. It has the longest, the biggest impact on your longevity. Later, you can say, okay, vagus stimulation is very good also. But in general, the core things needs to be intact so that we could have, let's say, additional beneficial effects. So, if you're consuming alcohol and smoking, you can use every device on the market which is available, but it will not have any dent in your, let's say, already damaged. So,
Yeah.
it's for us, it's just a small nudge to write patterns, and later you can maybe build some let's say habits. Due to that, a lot of our customers are asking, okay, how much I need to use it and for how long?
Yeah.
It's a very good question, but you can always ask a question. We can answer a question with a question. How long do you need to train to get in shape, and can you stop? In general, you can get into shape, stop, but in 2-3 months you will get out of shape. So this is also the same for stress, resilience, anxiety, or sleep improvement. You need to make it as a habit, and you need to maintain it so you feel better. When this is, let's say, there is no magic, basically, and this important made the message that you need to enjoy the journey. You do not need to overcomplicate, try to start 5 things in a row and break all of them in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, the concept of you can't exercise your way out of a terrible diet and terrible lifestyle, right? Yeah, and you said a word that I love, which is to build resilience. And I think that that is really special. So maybe let's just describe. So for people who maybe can't see me when you watch this, I'm wearing a Pulsetto device around my neck. I put a little bit of gel, sort of like the activator, right? The conduction between two metallic pads on both sides of my neck where my vagus nerve runs through. I set up my app. There's a few different options to run, and I sit with this. And for me, I notice it causes me to just take a breath, which already is a really good sign. But tell me about what is actually happening with this subtle stimulation.
So a lot of things are happening, but in general, we are pushing the electricity to vagus nerve, and you need to understand that those fibers which are responsible for relaxation, usually we have a lot of, let's say, functions. Your, let's say, knowledge learning is also increased when you are in relaxed state. So a lot of things are happening, but we're pushing electricity into your vagus nerve, and that signal usually is linked to desynchronizing some electric EEG patterns, so in some radio waves, which is linked to good patterns. So we are, let's say, increasing good patterns in the brain. We're increasing a little bit of blood flow in the brain. And from that, additional signals are going to the body, as we mentioned, lowering, let's say, heart rate, and etc. And so, usually we are asked, okay, the more power we provide to the device, is it more effective or not? And the intensity is not for getting more or something like this. It's just to see if you're in the right place. When you apply the device and you are increasing the stimulation and you see the lip pull, it shows that you're in the right place. And you can lower the intensity until you reach the, let's say, good level, which is comfortable for you. And, you also mentioned that resilience is quite important. So how I use my Pulsetto myself, with that, I prepare my this work before going to bed. I wake up a little bit more anxious already due to that. I got a lot of things to do on my mind, and I stimulate my vagus nerve. I go to the, let's say, calm state, and I revisit all the things that I listed that I need to do, and cross check it. Okay, is it really that important? Is it, let's say, important and urgent or not? So I give myself a little bit of ground. And due to that, I like to have a lot of stress in the morning, so I can remove it and make my evenings, let's say, more quiet. And this is building a resilience. Due to that, I think I got quite high tolerance of stress. Due to that, I built myself a habit on which I can go day by day. And if I see that, okay, this is all urgent, I can stimulate myself more, it several times, and understand, okay, you can go through and try to, push your body into like this. Let's say every person who has its own business, I would say they are like stress resilience athletes, in my opinion, due to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stress workloads, high stake decisions, and etc. So you get stress resilience with this kind of let's say tool. You can, let's say, train faster.
Yeah, I love that. What you also described was this concept of habit stacking first thing in the morning. So
Yeah.
cortisol goes up first thing in the morning. You're naturally cueing the body to come into a relaxed state as you're doing something that could be your most stressful part of the day, which is important because I can imagine that you're also retraining your nervous system that way to come back into parasympathetic when you typically are sympathetic. I'm like you, first thing in the morning, as much as I want to stay grounded and present, and I can do all the things and check the checklist of starting my morning off right. Sometimes the stress is just overwhelming. So that is a beautiful concept to bring resilience. And can you share a little bit around the concept or the studies or the 4-minute concept with Pulsetto?
So 4 minutes is basically understood that we push enough electricity to the vagus nerve, so it activates and push your body into relaxation state. So it's let's say like this, at this point, we know the best signal on which in 4 minutes you can reach the parasympathetic nervous system activation. Let's say in next iteration or maybe iteration after it, maybe we will find an even better algorithm, and it will take only 2 minutes, But 4 minutes is just enough to push your body into that motion where you can relax. Of course, if you're working, you'll go to a sympathetic state, but it's also training. It's constantly pushing your body into some let's say environments which you usually can't control, and we give this kind of, let's say, easy way out. If you see that you're overwhelmed, you can go. They apply for 4 minutes, then relax, center yourself, go to the, to the, let's say, equilibrium. Due to that, this is how, let's say, professional athletes are using it. So if they are getting, let's say, before competition, they get sometimes overnight, and they simulate for 4 minutes or 6 minutes. It depends on how much they are overstimulated. So they push themselves to that state where they can control their decisions. Decision making is very critical for professional athletes. And later, after a competition, usually they have additional, let's say, burst of adrenaline where they cannot go to bed, and next day competition usually falls through. So we also calm the nervous system, and push the body into relaxation state so that they can easily go to rest state and go to bed. And this is a critical thing. And a lot of people are thinking, okay, professional athletes are something out of this world, but usually, when you need to do a presentation, when you're talking with your boss or owner, usually you're also in these kind of states, and sometimes it's just a small thing which matters the most.
I love that you gave so many examples because I'm sure listeners and I'm sure people that you've worked with, or they want to know, well, how quickly can someone get benefits from doing this? Are we talking minutes? Are we talking days? But I think what I'm really hearing is that on one part of it, you're using this to build resilience of your nervous system. But on the other hand, you can also use it to be strategic in those times. And whether you're a mother, an athlete, a CEO, someone having a big meeting with your boss, or gosh, if I go out to dinner late at night, my mind comes back. I'm just wired because I have a different routine that night. And it's hard to wind down. So I think it really is something that applies to everyone. And tuning into a bit more about the innovation behind all of it, how did your understanding of the vagus nerve lead you to creating Pulsetto? And what was the inspiration that you wanted to try to make it different than other devices in the marketplace?
So I finished, let's say, biomedical engineering or biomechanical engineering in general. Let's say first thing that I saw, it was not vagus stimulation, it was deep brain stimulation for Parkinson's and dystonia diseases, which are very debilitating. But you can find on YouTube where where they place the leads into your brain, but after implantation, they start the device and you see that tremors are just removed, basically. And this looks like science, like magic, basically. And this was my, let's say, understanding. Okay, some specific electrical signal to specific body part can make a world, of change. And even if you do not believe, but you see it with your own eyes, and you understand that this, it's magic in some ways. So I had my, let's say, career, and later I got, let's say, a job, worked with implantable devices, vagus nerve stimulation devices, deep brain stimulation, spinal cord stimulation, and also organ transplantation. So I had very interesting job. It was interesting people I met, very smart people, way smarter than me, on let's say, on that side. But I had a personal mission to that. My father came to Italy, and we did all the tests on him, and he was migrating over time, but we could not find any disease. Basically, every biomarker was good in sense. And I was working with various stimulation devices for drug-resistant epilepsy and drug-resistant depression, and it works wonders with that. Even some, let's say, patients were not responding for the epilepsy, but the quality of life was improving. So that a lot of things are happening, and I had a good network. I talk with neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, neurologists, and say maybe my father has some sort of depression, which is undiagnosed, and I try to let's say find a device in the market which I can try externally. Let's say, because vagus nerve stimulation for drug-resistant epilepsy is implanted inside the body, but I could not find one on the market. So I tried to build it myself, but I could not finish it in time. My father passed away, so it was left like a project which I pushed it aside, and COVID happened. I met my co-founder, Vitalijus, whose wife was suffering from cluster headaches. And cluster headaches is basically it has a second pain, like a suicidal pain. And one of the things on research papers that vagus nerve stimulation can help to reduce cluster headaches. So I had like a prototype. So we joined forces, we built a device, we tried it on her, it worked, and we understood that we have something, and we understood that we need to build this to develop. We cannot buy this kind of device in the market. So the rest is history. We launched like on Indiegogo campaign, which is a funding campaign, because we did not know if it is needed or people are understanding this kind of concept. So you need to reduce the stress, anxiety, but in just 1 month we raised around 200,000 euros, and we understood that okay, this is needed. We can democratize a standard technology for common users which have some problems, but maybe undiagnosed some conditions, but they want to help themselves, and we build it, and now we're growing very fast with that. The more we sell, usually the more word of mouth we get, and it's easier to even promote it and get let's say good customer feedback, which is the most important for us.
What a journey. I'm so happy that I asked you about that question. Hearing about the passion that goes into a founder's journey and the creation of the product when it fills such a massive need is key. I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. I'm in a stage where so many of my friends were dealing with parents who were aging. And unfortunately, at that stage in life, doctors tend to dismiss you if things look okay on those biomarkers, right? And here we are as their children trying to figure out what is wrong. And I think that a big part of this also has to do with the mental health stuff that you brought up. And I think that when people think of Pulsetto, addressing that is something that's major, because this isn't something that's just unique to seniors or to adults. It's also happening with children, right? These states of anxiety-related disorders and depression, mood disorders, and everything that's impacting so many people today. And the amount of drugs, prescription drugs that are now being prescribed when there's different modalities that people can try. And I really hope that the future is going to talk more about the body's electrical system, this like fascinating, beautiful electricity that the body already conducts. Probably don't know this about me, but I've had 2 heart surgeries. And all that I can think about when I speak to practitioners like you, I had heart palpitations that led to atrial tachycardia. We talk about the gut-brain axis, but what about the gut-heart-brain axis? And we think about electricity, the biggest conductor of electricity is our heart. And the studies that you had mentioned also around, lowering your heart rate, lowering your breath rate, it's all connected to the heart. Have you come across any studies or any awareness, or do you speak to this aspect of gut-brain heart?
So we know, of course, about this, and we have some data on this, but it's not currently available. But yeah, we did like with atrial fibrillation. Due to that, we managed to let's say to reduce the times when you get the atrial fibrillation, which can be detected with Apple Watch or etc. So we're trying to do this, but health conditions is very hard to let's say to understand. Is it, let's say, a huge problem, or is it like maybe something is happening in let's say, I don't know, maybe you had bad sleep night, and if you get a better sleeping quality, maybe you correct itself. But this is a very interesting topic. We actually had also like a trial where we're using our device to see if we can reduce, let's say, systolic blood pressure. So we also managed to reduce it a little bit, but we need to convert it more to elevated, let's say, blood pressure is one of the major things with heart problems in general, deaths in the world. So we're trying to delve into this market, but it's very shaky ground to say something.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, okay, we can help with something, but currently there is a need to gather more data. But in general, people are forgetting that neuromodulation, let's say, pacemakers are one of the first devices which were, let's say, started to be implanted and used, and say, okay, neuromodulation is something new. No, it's not new. It's already well established, and you just do not understand what kind of, let's say, mechanism of action is happening. But in general, it's a biggest use case actually.
Yeah, I'm with you. We can't make any bold statements like that, but I think that the more that people understand the electrical component of the heart, and that could support them in healing, and the fact that everything is connected. And earlier you had mentioned the fact that your vagus nerve connects to organs throughout the body and how it can impact the organs throughout the body. So I don't know about you, but my hope for the future is that doctors just have more education, and that they're giving just more points or tools for people to use that could be around, hey, maybe you want to try this out. As we look at the potential for surgery around AFib or tachycardia or any heart condition that you might have around electricity, maybe you want to look at calming the body through vagal tone activation as well. So can I ask you, what's coming up for Pulsetto? What's the mission? What are you most excited about now?
We have this kind of version 2 of a device, and I know that you were holding the device with it next to your neck, so this was a common issue. Now we have like a magnet paddings, which you can add additional padding and to have a better placing. So, we know that this kind of issue so we want this device to try and ramp up manufacturing. So this is, very good for us due to that, it don't be just
I have a teeny tiny neck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I saw when you noticed that. I have a really tiny neck, so thank you.
So we know this is the issue, and we fixed it. next issue, I would like to try to fix it, and we have like a roadmap for this. To this gel, do like a gel stimulation. So this is also a thing that we are trying to do. Of course, we have a lot of things with our data. We're trying to optimize and provide individual stimulation programs. Okay, if we, let's say, detect higher stress levels, let's say, stimulate, I don't know, in this kind of window, or maybe we would have more indications in the app where you can stimulate, I don't know, for digestion, our topic. So, I can speak a lot on this, but just the small things at the time, trying to fix the most things, which is, I don't know, not annoying, but the critical issues for our customers. So, Joe, padding, later have better insights, as I mentioned. Just try to give bullet points when you need to do, how to improve, and maybe how you can even check how having any data would have like good customer, let's say, an experience where we talk with some customers in our exhibitions and we say, okay, I have removed all the road rage, and we said, okay, this is quite interesting, but it's also linked to stress or maybe burnout, etc. But now that mother said that, one thing is road rage. Second is that my children started to see me as a normal person, to do that I do not react to some small issues, overreact to small issues, and this is helping even not to the person itself, but surrounding people also usually getting some feedback on your stress and say, okay, I'm calmer, I have a better relationship with children, and this is compounding, and we understand that, okay, this is an interesting topic on which we never thought about and concept how we can impact, maybe not that directly, not on biomarkers, but on these kind of things. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of data we're trying to gather, and we're trying to find some patterns on which we can base some decisions. So maybe even provide some, let's say, stress resilience solutions. Okay, if you are getting, let's say, good quality of sleep, but you want to get better, we can provide, get let's say, dark shades, which usually improves sleep. Lower the temperature in a bedroom. This is also usually improves the quality of sleep. So maybe add some things, to the application, which provides like like a platform where you can gather some more information, and then maybe build some better habits, which overall, gives, a better quality of life. And this is the most important thing.
I think that is lovely. And I'm smiling so much right now because I think that something we should really call out right now is the information that we're getting on social media and online. It's overwhelming. And it's almost like there's so many brands who are sensationalizing these products or modalities or studies and stuff like that. But what I'm learning, I've got a private membership community. It's through storytelling, just like what we're doing today, but your experience, sharing the experience of how you are as a father with your children and what you're feeling there, sharing the experiences from people who are using your device and how it improves their digestion. It's the storytelling, which I think is human nature for us to like, okay, that's someone, they're like me. I'm suffering with that too. Now I want to try that. And I'm curious, have your kids ever tried the Pulsetto device themselves? Do you talk to them about breath work? I know we can't, make any claims for children or anything, but are you curious? Have they tried?
So I do not have myself children, but I know people who are using on the children. So there are some good stories, maybe where we can, let's say, maintain some focus for longer. Just trying to, let's say, optimize the hormonal balance that try to stay in one place. But it's a learning process, and for children, I would say it should be, let's say, like this. Maybe in the future we'll have something which is more relatable for them, due to that we need to gamify
Yes.
the board, etc. Due to that, it's a different user user journey is usually it's also a key to understand how well a person is using and when they should use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And I think it's about that whole picture and everything that you're doing cumulatively together, right? And especially for kids, getting them to take that really, really deep breath is important. All right. We're coming up to the end of our time. I would love just a couple of rapid fire questions that I'll ask you. Um, let's say, for listeners who are really inspired today, they're understanding vagal tone and vagal nerve activation a little bit more. What are three things that, if you could wave a magic wand, people who purchase a Pulsetto, what are three things that they should be doing with their Pulsetto every day?
Three things. You need just two things, use it twice a day. And let's say if you have a wearable device that's connected and see on your own data, give, let's say, 2 weeks. And if it is not working, you can always tell the device how questions ask. And this, let's say, like the promise from our end, if it doesn't suit you in your well-being, you just can return it or maybe give to your relative and maybe they will have some impact. So, this is, let's say, a thing that you need to give yourself a moment to relax. And this is one of the easiest way to do this. Due to that, when we decided to create a device, I would say, first, it should be easy to use. Second is it working or not? And if you are not passing the first barrier, usually you will not go to the second barrier. So, my, let's say, core thing was make it as easy, acceptable to use it, and the later the results should come. Yeah.
Beautiful. Couldn't agree more. And I'm curious, through the studies that you're looking at or over the years, what's one of the most common mistakes that people are making around their health that you see?
I think the common mistake people are using, usually people are, let's say, creatures of habit, and they say, okay, let's say like a new resolution. This is one of the biggest things that people are doing. So first, they're waiting for some specific deadline. Usually this does not work. And second, they try to weigh too much habits in once. Okay, I will not drink, smoke, I will do exercises, do meditation, and just drink throughout the whole of the day. Due to that, you do not have mental capacity. You did not bring it as a small habit. So, just try to establish one habit every, let's say, 4 weeks or something like this until you do not have to think about it and do it. And I also did this mistake hundreds of times. And, and now it's okay. The newest thing, I will drink, let's say, 2 or 3 liters of water every day. So for 30 days, I'm doing like this and say, okay, this is easy for me. Now I can add additional habit. Let's say, wake up in the morning and do 2 times a week. Let's say some yoga. And after this, I have, let's say, two habits on which I can rely on, building things like this, I would say.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. Yeah, we're making healing and health and happiness way too complicated. I'm like you. I drift and it's like, I'm doing it again. It's too much. Simplification is just so key.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, we talked about a lot of ancient healing remedies today. Is there one specifically that you like to practice? Are you a meditator? Are you cold plunging? Are you going out into nature? What is your thing?
I live there in nature, so for me, it's I do not know. Yeah, and I live near to a forest, so usually I walk my dog to the forest. So it's quite easy to go. But I like actually cold baths. I do not know why, but they center me quite well.
Yeah.
But one thing is usually that it takes time. It takes time to prepare this kind of things. And I would like to do more of this, but I would say, due to that, a lot of traveling and so usually it's a quite demanding. Yeah.
Absolutely. I get you. Well, thank you for sharing that today. So we're going to link out everything in the show notes. Everyone listening, if you want to try Pulsetto, use code MONA, MONA. Please go to the Pulsetto Tech website, look up all of the incredible information that they have there. It was really inspirational speaking to you today. Very refreshing. I love being able to talk to founders who can share such depth in their story, but also with the studies that you've done. And I'm really excited about the direction for this brand. And on my last community call, I'll share with you, I would say virtually 95% of the people mentioned having some issues, whether it was too much stress, too much anxiety, or major digestive issues. They were all key, right? And I think that these are foundational pillars of health that we need to really address. And Pulsetto really came in there, and we did an entire month on vagus nerve activation where we talked about Pulsetto also, along with all the other modalities that we talked to today. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for joining me today. Where can people find you? How do you stay in touch with people who want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I try to do as small social media as I can.
Yeah.
Usually I use LinkedIn due to that, it's a network of companies and etc. So if you have any questions, you can always find me on LinkedIn. And if you write me, I usually reply myself, maybe not instantly, but reply to everyone. Due to that, sometimes I get a lot of customer related issues, and I try to solve it myself. Sometimes maybe too much, but yeah, I really like to get some stories. Due to that, the company is growing, and you get sometimes lost your customer voice, and we're trying to get it, not forget it, and not make it just a statistic. So that is a key thing that I always try to read some feedback, good or bad, or something like this. But it's always good to be, near to your customer.
I couldn't agree more. Well, keep sharing those stories. That was very special and I think very impactful. And you have a big fan over here too. So just say the word if there's anything I could do to support you. Come see us in Los Angeles, and maybe we'll do our next session in person. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
You too.